First question today for the panel and for your consideration is, in light of our theme, what do you believe is the present state of worship within the local church? And what needs to be done, if anything, to address your stated challenges? In light of our theme, what do you believe is the present state of worship within the local church? And what needs to be done, if anything, to address your stated challenges?
When we talk about, there you go, when we talk about praise and worship, some of the things that I have seen in many churches is that we often have a tendency to stay in praise and not move to the destination of worship. We understand that our praise is the vehicle that leads us to the destination of worship. You know, I use this analogy all the time. When you came to the Potter's house this afternoon, you came in a vehicle. You got here by bus or by car. We flew here, but when we got here, we didn't stay in that vehicle. We got out of the vehicle to come to our destination. And sometimes it's because of a lack of understanding, and then others it's the lack of maturity. And I think it's a reason why in the Old Testament that the Lord said that the priest had to be of a certain age to be able to carry the ark. I think that maturity, or that age, 21, speaks of stature. It speaks of the understanding. It speaks of maturity. And the fact that the priests had to carry the ark on their shoulders speaks to the fact that they all had to be a certain height. And if there was a lack of maturity or a lack of equality in the understanding, and when I speak of stature now, then the ark would have been crooked coming in. And unfortunately, we see in our churches that during worship we have crooked glory, I like to call it. Yeah. Because there's not an understanding of why we exist, what God has called us to in the element of worship. And I thank God for Dr. Harrison and her vision, in that she is bringing to us tools and vital concepts to teach us. I was sharing with Dr. Guns a minute ago in the room back there, is that, you know, during the time that just this generation should have been learning about the rudiments and the principles and the foundations of worship, we as a church were talking about name it and claim it and blab it and grab it and this prosperity gospel. And what has happened is we have a generation now of individuals that don't know and don't understand the rudiments of what God is calling for. But in order for us to really tap into this next dimension that God is moving us to, we really need to come to the conceptualization of why we exist, who God has called us to be, and once again capture the concepts of the Levitical priesthood and why we exist in the house of God. We know it's all about Him, but how do we make it all about Him? How do we actually dismantle what we have created and make it all about Him? Does anybody feel me in this room? And I think that, you know, as we grow and as we come to conferences like this one and have an opportunity to sit at the feet of Jesus and to allow Him to teach us who we are in Him, that we'll see a greater glory revealed in our churches.